for your inspiration and dedication. Wonderful to listen to that. So I'm Jaye, and I was asked here by Joanna to sort of round out the panel and speak a little bit about my personal experience with an eating disorder. So I'm going to read what I've written. I was first diagnosed with anorexia nervosa at age 15. At the time, I had no idea what the future had planned for me. I only knew that I felt lost in a flurry of repeating self-persecutory thoughts, a constant negative voice in my head, drowning me in a violent inner monologue that told me I must not eat. I must not eat because I was simply too fat, too undeserving, too unlovable, too lazy, and too much. The disease had convinced me that food was the enemy, that it was something to be feared, hated, deplored, and avoided. I plunged headfirst into my illness, immune and unable to be concerned about the life, consequences, and possibilities that were passing me by. My parents and loved ones found my illness both paradoxical and frustrating, and my relationships with them suffered immensely. Endless financial resources were channeled into saving my life. I had very little quality of life. Socializing usually revolved around eating, thus I avoided it. Though there were some romantic relationships over the years, they were inevitably interrupted by frequent and lengthy hospital stays, as well as by very poor body image and low sense of self-worth. In short, my life had been stolen out from under me by my eating disorder. Before I knew it, my life went from resembling a normal teenage experience of junior proms, thespian society, and soccer games to a seemingly never-ending cycle of treatment, followed by relapse, followed by more intensified treatment all over again. I spent a vast amount of time at various treatment centers throughout the years. Despite this, I was able to maintain one other constant throughout my life, which was my education. Though I was underweight and medically compromised, I managed to obtain a bachelor's, master's, and then a doctoral degree all in succession. I know now that I likely worked twice as hard as I would have had to if I had gone to school when I was healthy. I had significant cognitive deficits as a result of the malnutrition caused by the eating disorder. While hearing about my educational success might cause some to think, see, she turned out fine. Eating disorders aren't really a big deal. Mine is a cautionary tale. I am proof that individuals with eating disorders can and often do appear dangerously and deceptively high-functioning, managing in their official lives while struggling and suffering in silence. While I appeared successful in my educational endeavors, I did so while receiving liquid nutritional supplements through a feeding tube each night, rarely taking in solid food by mouth. In this manner, and in an effort to keep the severity of my disorder a secret, as the darkness of dusk leaked into the morning hours of dawn, behind the safety of my locked dorm room, I made a nightly and very unusual routine of receiving most of my sustenance through a feeding tube. Days were spent avoiding friends who wanted to meet for a casual lunch in the dining hall, or worrying myself over how I would maintain minimum weight requirements to be able to stay enrolled in school, as I had already taken one medical leave and desperately wanted to avoid another. This story is important for a few reasons. First of all, it illustrates the power of an eating disorder and speaks to how severe mine was. It also goes without saying that I would not have been able to manage permanently in this way. Therefore, proper treatment for eating disorders is non-negotiable. Most importantly, the reason I wanted to share this story with you is that there are plenty of these high-functioning individuals living among us. They attend to their duties and responsibilities in otherwise ordinary ways, and therefore their deadly disorder, their odd eating, or the endless amounts of pantry food that continue to disappear, their running another marathon, their pale skin, and cold handshakes do not invoke a sense of concern. Too many with eating disorders maintain life-threatening chronic forms of the illness, yet appear at average or above average weights. They appear to live ordinary and capable lives, but let us make no mistake about this. Anyone suffering from an eating disorder is playing a game of life and death roulette, and they deserve treatment. Years of low weight and medical complications, including dehydration, cardiac arrhythmia, orthopedic overuse injuries, and cardiac wasting, drove me back to treatment over and over again. I also experienced a sense of sheer emotional exhaustion and guilt over how my negative behavior was affecting loved ones. Like a hamster on a squeaky wheel, I did not know how to escape the very circular and monotonous trajectory my adolescence and young adulthood had taken because of this disease. I began to believe that I was beyond help, that this eating disorder, this thing that had attached itself to me like a cancer and had grown so large it had become my only identity, was not a worthy opponent because it simply did not fight fair. Finding myself back in treatment over and over again led me to feel like a failure for not sustaining previous progress I had made, shamed me into believing I would always be sick, and exhausted me by keeping me from living the life I was yearning to live. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, it kept me from meeting, knowing, and spending time with truly recovered or even normal, healthy individuals who could provide me with hope that there was another way. For all of these reasons, it is incumbent upon us that we begin to examine this broken system, treat people until they are well, and do what it takes to help people with eating disorders once and for all. We would not ask a cancer patient to cut off her chemotherapy regimen prematurely simply because the trajectory of her recovery seemed to be going in the right direction. Let's be consistent and provide people with eating disorders the treatment they are entitled to. Let's provide them with treatment according to the APA guidelines, and let's hold insurance companies accountable to covering treatment that is recommended by a patient's treatment team, not what is in accordance with the insurance company's inadequate and unjust internal guidelines. As for me, after many years of self-doubt, medical and emotional instability, and a profound yearning for something better, I did successfully find a way out of that broken system. Through experience, readiness to change, the help of a wonderful treatment center, and some steel determination, after 17 years of anorexia, I fully recovered. Recovery for me was about cultivating a deeper relationship with my soul self. It was about finding a treatment center that was the right fit for me. It was about working with individuals who knew when to push and when to pull, when to set limits around long-standing entrenched behaviors, and when to encourage me to dance and sing and emote and use my space. It was about finding myself. It was about staying committed to these principles. It was about eating, even when eating felt exactly like the thing I least wanted to do. And it was about staying in treatment for as long as it took, staying so that I could break years of ingrained unhealthy behaviors. These were all things I would not have been able to do on my own, and doing anything else would have certainly meant an eventual death sentence for me. Today, I'm a fully recovered, healthy woman, a practicing consultant and clinical psychologist specializing in the field of eating disorders. In many ways, I now find myself playing a game of catch-up as I look around me and come to grips with the fact that I forfeited 17 years of my life to an eating disorder. It is as if that time is a black hole or it has been erased, as if I am still an adolescent picking up again where I left off when I was diagnosed so many years ago. My contemporaries are married, they have children and full lives, while I am just beginning to build mine. Eating disorders steal lives, that is the truth. To have mine back is a blessing. I am enjoying this new time and space. I donated my much overused precious scale to a local clinic. I was awarded a full-time photography scholarship at a school in my hometown. I find I am often giddy over seemingly trivial experiences the rest of us might take for granted, such as the break I took while preparing this very speech to walk into my kitchen, casually prepare dinner for myself, and then nonchalantly munch on it while polishing up my efforts here. I take great pleasure in strolling on the beach and feeling the salty California air on my face, or in allowing my 3-year-old nephew to laughingly stuff a bite of chocolate cake in my mouth, or in going on a blind date, or in completing a book or conversation free from distracting thoughts about food or exercise. These seemingly small things, these gifts, the things most of us take for granted, are things that truly represent the largest change in my life today. These are the types of things I may pay no mind to 10 years from now. However, 10 years ago, they would have been fraught with anxiety, dread, and gloom, and seemed like an impossibility. They are the reason I recovered, and the reason I feel so strongly about maintaining my hard-fought efforts. The truth is that eating disorders are very real, and they are truly horrendous. They have the potential to, and often do, kill people, and thus they must be taken seriously. On the flip side, there is hope. People get well, and if provided the right care and resources, they can truly, completely recover. I am living proof that this is true, and I hope my story is the impetus that encourages you or your boss to sign on to the FREED Act. Thank you for allowing me to share my story here today.